Hi, vintage bakers. Today I'm in the kitchen baking egg bread. This high-protein brioche bread is soft, pillowy, and light. If you love baking bread at home but can't seem to replicate those super soft grocery store loaves, then this is your recipe. Rich eggs meet the tender softness of freshly baked bread. These loaves pack more protein than your average bread recipe, making it a great choice for people looking to add more protein to their diet, pack in some added nutrition, or a great way to use up an abundance of eggs. With its delicate crumb and delicious flavor, it pairs perfectly with both sweet and savory toppings, making this a versatile and nutritious option. So let's get into the kitchen. This is how I make high-protein bread. To start this recipe, I'm going to add to a large bowl a half a cup of warm water and a quarter cup of sugar. Sprinkle 2¼ teaspoons or 1 packet of dry active yeast on top and set aside for a few minutes for the yeast to soften and become foamy. Now that my yeast mixture is ready, I'm going to add to the bowl 1 teaspoon of salt and 6 eggs. I usually like to crack each egg into a separate bowl first, just in case anything is wrong with an egg or to make it easier to fish out any eggshells that might drop in. But it looks like I've decided to throw caution to the wind here today. I'm going to add in 4 cups of flour and start to mix everything into a smooth batter. You can either do this by hand or use a machine. After the ingredients start to come together, I'm going to add in a quarter cup of softened butter. I'm doing this in a few additions and kneading the dough until the butter is absorbed. Continue to knead the dough for 8 minutes if you're using a machine or 10 minutes if you're mixing the dough by hand. Cover and allow the dough to rise in a warm spot until doubled, which is about 1 hour depending on the temperature of your kitchen. Now that my dough has puffed up, I'm going to tip the dough out onto a lightly floured counter and split in half. And it looks like today I have not dusted my counter with any flour, which seems to be working. But it will make things easier and will prevent the dough from sticking to the counter if you lightly dust with flour before shaping the dough. Now I'm going to form each half into a loaf. I'm just going to make 2 long free-form loaves today. I do this by flattening out the dough and folding it in thirds like a letter going into an envelope. Then, working in the opposite direction, roll and press the dough together into a loaf. Once roughly formed into a log, I'm going to fold each loaf lengthwise over onto itself and press the dough together with the heel of my hand. Then do this same fold again, pinching the dough together with the heel of my hand. This is going to give structure and tension to the inside of the bread loaves. Once they're shaped, I'm going to place the 2 loaves onto a lined baking sheet and allow them to rise in a warm spot until just about doubled. This should take about 45 minutes, depending on the temperature of your kitchen. Meanwhile, I'm going to preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. Now that my bread dough has risen and before going into the oven, I'm going to make some slashes with a razor or a sharp knife over the top of the loaves. It isn't critical to have a special razor to make cuts into the top of the loaves. You can even use some sharp kitchen scissors to make a decorative design on top of the dough. Now that the loaves are ready, I'm going to pop them into my preheated oven and bake for 45 to 50 minutes, or until golden and sounds hollow when tapped. As soon as the bread comes out of the oven, immediately brush the tops of the loaves with butter. This is going to make soft and tender crusts instead of a dry, crispy outside, which makes it extra nice to slice the loaves. And the bread is ready to serve right away. This bread is super soft, tender, and airy. The eggs make up most of the wet ingredients of this bread recipe, which also makes this bread extra soft and light. This recipe is perfect for anything you would use your typical bread loaf. And since it's made with an extra dose of eggs, you know you're getting a nutrient-dense bread full of protein and flavor. Enjoy! If you're a fan of deliciously simple vintage recipes and old-fashioned skills, then you'll want to check out this next video. Thanks for stopping by.